So, I'm a little bit late on this one, but I have finally gotten around to see The Fall Guy, the brand new David Leitch film, which of course stars Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt. This is the brand new film from David Leitch, like I said, the same guy that made amazing films like Bullet Train, like Deadpool 2. He has slowly built himself a very, very impressive filmography and has started to establish himself as one of the best comedy action directors in Hollywood. He is really, really good at directing action, making it hard-hitting and make it feel fast, brutal, gruesome when it needs to be, but he's also very, very good at writing dialogue when it comes to comedy, and this movie is no different. The Fall Guy is a great action comedy movie that also has one of the better love stories told in a movie like this in quite some time. So what is it about? The Fall Guy is about this stuntman, played by Ryan Gosling, this man who gets into an accident and his life just kind of falls apart. Jumping about a year into the future, he has to now do this new movie, which the director of this movie is his former girlfriend, his ex-girlfriend, which is obviously causing some drama. The basic setup for the plot here, though, once he's on the movie set, is that the main actor, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, has gone missing, and he has to go find him and kind of uncover the mystery and the conspiracy of what's going on. He gets involved in this big action plotline, this weird conspiracy, and a bunch of crazy shit happens, but lo and behold, the whole entire story is really about Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt and kind of their love story that had been shattered and is now being brought back together on the set of this movie in Australia. This movie setup is really simple, and it never tries to be more than the concept that it is delivering. It's a movie that understands what it is. It is a fun action comedy movie that is extremely meta when it comes to the filmmaking process and when it comes to stuntmanning in general, and it's kind of a peek inside the industry, making fun of itself while telling a really, really fun romance story between Ryan Gosling, who they know in this movie, when they casted him in this movie, was going to carry a lot of it by just being Ryan Gosling, and Emily Blunt, who I am convinced is one of the most absurdly talented individuals on planet Earth. And those are the first two things about this movie that I really want to talk about in depth, the two performances. Ryan Gosling, if you've seen anything Ryan Gosling's in, of course you have, you know what you're getting in this movie. He's incredible, he's hilarious, he's charming, he's charismatic, but he has a way of still feeling like an everyday dude. He never feels like a big Hollywood movie star, he feels like a dude you can go and have a beer with. But he is so charming and so charismatic and so hilarious. His comedic timing is as good as anybody in the industry, the way that he sells the jokes and the physicality of this role, both in the way that he got jacked for this role, but also the way he actually does seemingly do kind of some of the stunt stuff is very interesting. This character is a lot of fun. He's very hilarious. Is he just another Ryan Gosling character that you've seen before? Yes, but does it work? Yes, it very much does work. Emily Blunt in this movie, though, plays the director. She plays this ex-girlfriend, and she is awesome in this film. Emily Blunt gives a performance here unlike anything I've ever seen, and it's weird. I don't really know how to describe it. Emily Blunt in this movie is playing kind of this jolly, upbeat director who's been through some shit, but she's got this very innocent vibe to her, this very calm demeanor, this very lightheartedness to her, something that I've never really seen Emily Blunt do, because everything I've seen Emily Blunt in, she usually plays this tough, stern badass in Oppenheimer and Edge of Tomorrow, but in this movie she feels very lighthearted and gorgeous in a way. Like, this is the most gorgeous she's ever been. She looks incredible in this film, but just her personality is very, you could see why Ryan Gosling's falling in love. I was thinking of that Bruce Wayne Batman meme, like, the entire time watching her in this movie. But because she plays the character in that way and she takes this very different vibe to it, it felt kind of like an old Hollywood meets new Hollywood. Like, you have this girl who's very much innocent, very much light, but she still has that smart, intelligent strength to her that you see much in newer Hollywood with these characters, and it's kind of the joining forces, and then you have the male heroic character, so it's this weird mix of, like, old Hollywood meets new Hollywood. Of course, you don't have all the sexism of old Hollywood, but you still have the classic story of this dude and this girl, this romance story, mixed with some of the tropes that you would get with those characters, but mixed with modern Hollywood, where everybody's strong, everybody feels more like a human being, and it works really well, and the relationship in this movie is very, very easy for them to sell. It works from the first scene on to the last, and it carries the movie through and through, and you gotta give props, give flowers to the actors who do a great job here. The supporting cast is also great. You have a bunch of different people that jump in and out. The main standouts, Aaron Taylor Johnson is hilarious. He's playing this douchebag actor who, although is a spectacular actor in the film, he's just kind of a dick, and he is hilarious. He plays kind of multiple different characters because you see glimpses of him acting in different movies. At one point, he's kind of doing like a weird Matthew McConaughey impression, and it's hilarious. We love Aaron Taylor Johnson. Can't wait to definitely see him playing James Bond, because that's going to happen. Winston Duke is also hilarious. He just kind of plays this reference machine. He's just referencing different movies throughout the whole movie, and it's shit that I love, personally. Everybody else that jumps in, I don't want to spoil any of it, because I don't know how much is actually announced of them being in the movie, but all the cameos, all of that stuff is amazing. The actual inward look into Hollywood in this film, kind of watching the film set, how it vibes, how a movie's made, and how the stunt production actually goes, for me at least, as somebody who has a distinct interest in working in film, found it to be very, very fascinating. There's a lot of meta stuff in here, like the opening credits designed like a screenplay, I thought was really, really cool. And throughout the whole film, there's just a lot of meta shit talking about, like, the third act. We have to plan out the third act of this movie, and this movie felt like, as you're going through, you're like, I feel like they're planning the third act of our movie, and it's just a bunch of meta shit like that. This movie also had a lot of good one-ers, which is something I didn't expect. Now, Bullet Train had a good amount of one-ers in it as well, but this movie, there's a few distinctly early in the film, and I don't know if it's David Leitch kind of experimenting as a filmmaker and stretching how far he can go with some of these sequences, but there are a lot of early sequences, some that don't even include action or stunts, that are just very, very long one-ers, and I really appreciate it. There's also a lot of sequences that are just, dialogue-wise, completely carry some of these scenes. There are scenes that I felt like I was glimpsing into a Quentin Tarantino movie with how they were structured. Do they ever reach anything like a Quentin Tarantino movie? No, I'm not going to give it that much praise, but the dialogue and the structure of the scenes felt like that's kind of what it was going for, and I appreciated that to an extent, because I felt like that mix with what David Leitch does best, which is like this over-the-top action comedy, really molded itself well, and it made for like it made for scenes that felt more complex and more high-end in Hollywood and in film than what you usually get from like studio action comedies. And David Leitch in general, I just think this guy is a good director. He understands what to do with the camera. He understands how to pace scenes to a point where they feel like the movie never drags on. It moves thoroughly through the film. He understands how to do action extremely well. It's probably his best thing. I mean, he was a former stuntman, but he's very, very good at that, and he seems to now be molding himself around dialogue and how to actually sell these characters in these longer dialogue talking scenes. So overall, David Leitch is a director that I think is slowly conforming into one of the more fascinating and interesting filmmakers we have in Hollywood. We'll see what he does next, but there are a lot of things that he does in these films, even if some of them feel experimental for himself, but they're very exciting. They make me very, very excited to see what his future work's going to look like. Now, this movie's not perfect. I do have some slight problems with it. The main thing is I think the movie is a little bit too long. And if you're wondering if you've heard me say that before, it's because you have. I've said it a billion times in a billion movie reviews, because movies these days are too long sometimes. There are, like, at least 4 or 5 scenes in this movie that could have been cut, shorter the runtime a little bit, and it would have made that third act better. The third act in this movie I just felt dragged a little bit too long, mainly because the movie had been too long. And that is my only problem. It was about 2 hours and 5 minutes long. It could have been about 1 hour and 45 minutes. That's probably where they should have targeted the runtime. But overall, it's really my only major complaint. I think some of the stuff here is a little bit forgettable. I think some of the action scenes can maybe blend into some of the other ones as being a little bit weaker. I would have liked maybe more of the filmmaking stuff, more of the film set stuff. Maybe if the entire movie was just kind of about a stuntman instead of him getting into this weird conspiracy thing and it was just him being a stuntman trying to get the girl back. Maybe that would have been more my taste, but those are just some minor nitpicks. I forgot the music. I really like the music. They were using that one Kiss song that I love, and they use it throughout the whole freaking movie, and it's brilliant. Brilliantly weaved into scenes. I love that. But overall, I had a really good time with The Fall Guy. This is a great movie that I could really recommend to just about anybody. It's a movie that you can go see on a weekend. Have a good time with it. It might not stick with you for very long. It's not a movie that's going to really make you think about yourself and think about the world. And, you know, this isn't high cinema if that's what you're going into. But if you've seen any of David Leitch's movies, if you've seen Bullet Train, if you've seen Deadpool 2, you kind of know what you're getting into. It's a big action comedy blockbuster, something that you would think we get a lot these days. The MCU, you get all these different superhero stuff that are pretty much action comedies, but this is kind of like a different taste of it. It's almost like the John Wick-y style action, that over-the-top, mind-bending action that's just so enjoyable to watch, mixed in with really, really over-the-top and hilarious and satirical and meta comedy, kind of that Deadpool formula, and I think David Leitch is kind of mastering that, and he's becoming the best at it. And it's to a point that I would like to see David Leitch maybe go back and try to fix the superhero genre. Like, I know he did Deadpool 2, he's not doing Deadpool 3. I would like to see him go and maybe do like a bigger Avengers movie or something and see what this style in that kind of film, if maybe it could rejuvenate some of the love for that series and for that franchise. Maybe not. maybe he'll just keep making movies like this, and that's all good and great as well, because David Leitch is a great filmmaker, and this is a great movie. I'm gonna give The Fall Guy a 4 out of 5. I had a really good time with it. So you guys let me know what you thought of The Fall Guy down below. Let me know if you thought it was a great movie, or if I'm just off base. Please make sure to like this video, subscribe, turn on notifications, click the video on your screen right now, and I will see you guys in the next one.